Welcome to Foulness Island. The name is unfortunate. It either meant muddy headland or possibly bird headland a few centuries ago. It's about 9 square miles, around 150 people who live on it, but unless you are one of those people or you've got business with them, you will not be allowed in. Most of the island, and importantly, the road and bridge that get you onto it, they're owned by the British military and they will turn you away. But despite having no business here, I am on the island, legally. And that's because I didn't use the road and bridge. I walked along a very different path to get here. The Broom Way has been called the most dangerous, most deadly path in Britain. It goes back at least 600 years. And the only reason that I walked here safely is because I had a guide. A few miles back before we set off, I asked him a few questions.
Historically, there is reportedly 60 to 100 casualties on the Broom Way. The main thing is the tide. It whips round from the North Sea and sort of would come from not as you expect it, sort of straight on from the horizon, but it'll often spiral in to the coastline, and so it'll cut you off from your pathway. It's very easy to get lost out on the Broom Way, particularly in low visibility conditions when it's raining or there's low fog early morning, late at night. As there's no features or markers to take your bearing from, you can get very quickly disorientated. Quite often people will naturally walk further out to sea as opposed to back to land. The Broom Way is only open at the weekends for the public. The MOD use this as an active firing range, and they have done since the late 1800s. And so one thing that we might see out there is leftover ordnance. They do a pretty good job of cleaning up after themselves, but it doesn't mean that we won't see any out there. I've seen shells sort of this big. You just have to really keep your distance. Shell craters are also a problem because of the exploded ordnance that have gone off. So it's essentially quicksand. And so there'll be pockets of sand which are really soft and mushy that your feet will sink into that we have to be careful of. I only guide walks when the tide is constantly going out. So we are 3 hours after high tide. The tide is still on its way out and we should be coming back here as the tides are turning.
So obviously we made it. Thank you, Tom. The path's called the Broom Way because back before the military built their bridge, back when it was the only access onto this island, it was marked by brooms every 30 metres or so. Now, to 21st century people, that implies like broom handles sticking out the ground. But no, I tracked down a photo from 1922 and the brooms were just short lumps of brush. But over the last century, those brooms stopped being maintained. They were either swept away or eroded. And now the path is unmarked. But it's still on the map. It's still a legal path. Permanently closing a right-of-way in Britain is difficult.
On Foulness, there are public right-of-way footpaths that we can access. They are rarely used, and so if you do take them, the security switchboards will light up because you'll get reported by MOD staff or by locals who live there because they think you're trespassing. I wouldn't be guiding this if I wasn't a qualified mountain leader who has map and compass skills, good experience of this guided walk that I do. I have first aid qualifications, so I know how to sort of deal and treat with the likely emergencies that could happen out here.
That article from 1922 also names some of the people who died on the path. Several doctors travelling to attend patients, young women trying to reach partners, and island residents who got careless or who would sometimes stay in the mainland pubs too late and then try to race the tide back on a galloping horse. Because the part of the Broom Way we walked isn't just a footpath. Under modern law, it is a byway open to all traffic, which means that in theory, you can take a horse or a tractor or anything that's road legal onto it. It would be a very, very bad idea to just drive onto the sands, but in theory, you could if you didn't get bogged down. Now, a few times a year, the village on the island and the main road are open for tourism, but not right now, not in 2020, which means that right now there is only one way for the average person to get onto Foulness Island. But there are two ways to leave. We could go off the rights of way, trespass onto military land, and then very soon after get escorted off by soldiers, assuming we weren't arrested. Or we could just walk back. Ready when you are. Go. Thank you very much to Tom Bennett. He's a qualified mountain leader who runs tours across Britain. I'll put a link to his website in the description. It feels really weird talking about you in the third person when you're just there.
Yeah.
Oh.